Good morning, everyone. Patty here. I wanted to read you a book about yoga. I thought maybe I'd read this lovely children's book and then maybe do some yoga together. So this book, I Am Yoga, it's a children's book, but I bought it for myself. I love the illustrations and I love the sentiments that are expressed in this book, and I think that you'll enjoy it too. It's a quick read. I want to say a few things about yoga first, though. I've been fortunate for the last 13 years to be able to teach yoga. I loved learning how to do yoga, and then I wanted to share what I learned. I love sharing yoga. I love breathing with a group of people. I love taking yoga classes, and I love doing yoga on my own. So I'm hoping this might inspire you to learn about yoga. Yoga is the kind of thing, like so many things in the world, the more you learn about it, the more you realize there is to learn. It's deep and wide and wonderful. There are so many ways to practice, so many people teaching, and there's a lot more to yoga than just doing the physical poses, the asanas. Just to touch on a few, yoga is called an 8-limbed path. That means there are 8 different aspects to yoga, and only one of those aspects is the physical poses, the asanas. One you've probably all heard about is pranayama, the breath work, learning breathing techniques, learning to control the breath, and learning to breathe correctly and deeply. Then there's meditation, drawing away from the world around you and coming into your own center. That's one of the limbs of yoga. Then there are also the do's and don'ts, the yamas and the niyamas. These are kind of like the 10 Commandments, some of you might know, things to avoid doing, things to work toward eliminating in your life, and then also things to cultivate, aspects of living that make our lives feel richer and more centered. So that's just touching on a few. Let's see if there was anything else I wanted to say. My plan is to read you this book, and then I'll come back in another video and we'll do some of the poses that the young girl does in this book. So without further ado, let me read to you I Am Yoga. I Am Yoga by Susan Verde and art by Peter H. Reynolds. The dedication from Susan is to Jennifer Cohen Harper, my beautiful friend and mentor, and to yogis, big and small. And then Peter dedicates his illustrations to Bruce and Carol Hart. When I feel small in a world so big, when I wonder how I fit in, when the world is spinning so fast, I tell my wiggling body, be still. I tell my thinking mind, be quiet. I tell my racing breath, be slow. I close my eyes and make room in my mind, in my heart, to create and imagine. I am yoga. I can touch the sky. I am so tall. I can soar among the clouds. I am so free. I can sparkle with the stars. I shimmer and shine. I can dance with the moon. I light up the night. can sail on the sea. I go with the flow. I can open my heart. I feel love. I can see far and wide. I am focused. I can turn things upside down. I am playful. I can stand up for me. I can stand up for others. I can stand up for peace. I can open like a flower. I am beautiful. I can carry beauty with me. I am full. I can say I've had enough for today. I relax. I can rest. I am calm. Now the world is just the right speed. Now my world is just the right size. Now I see I fit in just fine. I am yoga. I can be anything. And then the book goes on to show the different yoga poses that are drawn into this book. There's another page and a little story about the author and the illustrator. Thank you so much for letting me read you this book. I'll come back soon with some of the yoga poses that were covered in this book. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Hi everyone. I'm back to do some yoga. I'm glad you're here. So I've got my book here. I am yoga. And I'm going to do some of the poses that the young girl in the book does. So she starts in mountain pose. By the way, namaste. Namaste means the light within me bows to the light within you. And each one of us holds that light. So we're going to rock a few times on our feet. Find the footprint of your foot and really anchor down into it, as if you could get a little heavier and make a dent in the floor. Then you're going to pull your tailbone down toward your heels. You're going to open across the hips, open across the collarbone, and bring the hands out like the shape of a mountain. Tadasana. Ta-da! I'm in my Tadasana. The legs are strong, but you don't want to overbend through the back of the knees. You want the knees to maybe have a little bend in them. So we're engaging the muscles of the legs. We're open, we're strong, we're standing like the beautiful trunk of a tree. And then if you like, you can bring the hands together into a pranam. Tadasana. From Tadasana, she balances in tree pose. So in tree pose, you have some choices. The first thing you want to do is bring your weight into one foot. Make sure the whole foot is making contact with the earth so that you can move around balanced on one foot. You can do tree pose with your toes on the ground and your heel up on your calf. Or you can bring your heel up a little higher under your knee, or you can reach down and bring that foot making contact with your inner thigh. I've got a wall behind me to help me with my balance. You might want to do that too. And then from here, you reach up, you grow your branches, you wave, you let the balance be fun, playful. Tree pose. Let's do the other side. So you always want to do both sides when you do a pose. So once again, choose where you want to bring your foot. The only place you don't want to bring it is to the inside of the knee, because we don't want to misalign the knee. So If you bring it into the thigh or the calf, you want to sort of have two energetic things going. You want the thigh to be pressing into the foot and the foot to be pressing. It's sort of isometric. They're pressing together. Find your balance. Lift up your branches. Alive in your tree. Let the breeze blow you around a little bit. If you fall out of it, that's half the fun. So let yourself fall out. Let yourself come back to it. Take your time. I am going to go through these poses rather quickly because I don't want to take too much time, but feel free to pause and enjoy the poses a little bit longer than I'm taking you through them. After tree pose, she goes into this pose. It's one that I don't do very often, but what you want to do is start in your Tadasana, really long and straight. Come into a forward bend. You can use a block here. That's what I'm going to do. Just for balance. So you want your back to be parallel with the floor. The top of your head pointing straight ahead. Once again, you bring your balance onto one foot. Bring the other foot straight out behind you and reach your arms out. You'll notice that your foot keeps making all kinds of adjustments to allow you to do this. That's a good thing. Our ankles and feet are so strong. Now, mostly I do gentle yoga, and she's doing yoga that's easy for kids to do, but a little harder for people my age to do. So bear with me here. Okay, so to do the other side, we're going to bend over, find a balance point, reach the opposite leg out behind you. Whoa. Find your balance. You can also lean against the wall. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to bring my foot over closer to the wall. Just my hip is going to touch the wall. And watch how much easier it is for me. It's not that the wall is supporting me. It's just that I feel a little more confident with the wall right there. From there, she goes into a star pose, one of my favorites. Star pose, you come to a wide-legged stance. You turn your toes in just a little bit. You pull in and up on the belly. You open the arms wide, and you make yourself into the shape of a star with your heart right at the center of your star. Lift the top of your head. Breathe into your heart and shine, twinkle. Maybe move your fingers a little bit. Engaging the tailbone down toward the floor, opening the heart, opening across the shoulder blades, and just let yourself feel radiant. Star pose. Hands to the hip, step together. And we're going to do boat pose. Boat pose is done from the floor. So you're going to sit down, find your sits bones. Those two bones that you sit on, that's why they're called the sits bones. You're going to bring your feet to the floor first and your hands behind your thighs. You're going to tilt back and level your feet. So you're balanced here. You're balanced on those sits bones. If you're comfortable here, straighten your legs. And if you're comfortable there, look toward your feet. Boat pose. This is where the young girl is going with the flow. It's very strengthening for your core, for your center, to be strong in the center. A lot of yoga poses encourage that, and it helps with so many things as you grow up. After boat pose, we're going to come into a camel pose, where she shines her heart forward. You can bring your palms to the backs of your hips, and you want to work toward bringing your elbows toward one another along the back. From here, we're going to open the throat, lift the chin, bring the hips forward. Once you're comfortable there, you're going to circle one arm up and back. You can rest it on your heel, the other arm up and back. And camel pose, shining the heart. Untuck your toes, sit back on your heels into your hero pose. Think of yourself as a hero of your own life. Don't forget to breathe. I don't really want to rush it, but I also don't want to take up too much time. It's hard for me to send those long videos. So from here, you're going to come into Eagle Pose. Now, Eagle Pose, some of you, I remember I used to be able to do this with no problem as a child, can cross your legs and tuck your foot behind your calf on one side. I can't do that anymore. So what I do is I use a block. You might want to use a stack of books or some sort of a box. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my toes on the block, and then I'm going to bend the bottom leg. So I'm kind of sitting down. Whichever leg is on top, that arm is going to be underneath. I'm going to twist at my elbows, bring my hands together, pointing straight up, sit down, and lift my elbows. Eagle Pose. Picture yourself an eagle perched on a branch, ready to take flight. And then we'll do the other side. So I'm going to use my block again, but you may very well be able to do this without the block. So I'm using my wall a little bit today, possibly because I'm going so quickly. So make sure you feel real steady first. Then whichever leg is on top, that arm comes underneath. Lift your elbows, sit into your Eagle Pose. Perch on your branch, as if you could see far and wide, as the beautiful eagle does, soaring. And we're going to come into a downward facing dog pose. This is one you hear about all the time. So I'm going to start out by coming into a standing forward bend. Let's see. I want you to be able to see the whole thing, but I'm not sure if that's going to work. So we're going to find our mountain pose. We go back to mountain a lot in the process. And then we're going to just come into a standing forward bend. You can bring your hands onto blocks. You can bring your hands onto the floor. Let's just take a minute in our standing forward bend. Lift the tailbone. Lift up and over the hip crease here. And drop the top of your head. Turn your head no a few times. Nod your head yes a few times. And breathe. And then we're going to bring our hands about a hand's length in front of where they were. Bring one foot back and the other foot back. Lift the tailbone. Press the chest toward the toes. Press into every single part of the hand. Reach the heels toward the ground. Drop the top of the head. Open the armpits toward the floor. And get long from the fingertips to the tailbone and from the hip flexors to the heels. See if you can open those muscles. And then bring the knees to the floor. And we'll take a little child's pose. What does she do next? Oh, she goes into warrior, some of my favorite poses. So warrior poses, they start in a lunge. And this is a high lunge. You're going to step back with one foot. And you can have a really wide stance or a really narrow stance. For all of our warrior poses, we want the back foot to be at a little bit of an angle. So the toes come forward, the heel comes back. And then take the hips and we move them toward the front. Now you might come up onto your toes for this warrior one pose. That's what I like to do. It's a little more balancy. You want to sit down into your lunge. And then on the inhale, lift your arms, fingers spread wide. Try and get those arms where you can't see them. They're aligned with your ears. And breathe. Standing up for yourself, I think, is what she does in this pose. Bring the arms down, step to the front of the mat, and do the other side. So, step back with the other foot. You don't have to turn around. I'm just turning around so I can see you if I turn my head. You can come up onto your toes. One thing you want to make sure the knee doesn't go forward of the ankle. You want this to be a straight line here. Both hips parallel with the front wall, the wall in front of you. Settle down into your lunge and inhale, the arms come up. Try not to see your arms. See if you can arch back a little bit and breathe. Warrior one. It makes you feel strong to do this pose, or it makes me feel strong to do this pose. This is where we stand up for ourselves, as in the book. Now, right from here, we're going to come into warrior two. And for warrior two, you want your hips to be more aligned with the long side of your yoga mat or the side wall. This time, the back foot doesn't come up onto the toes. You sink down so that calf, the lower leg, is a straight line up and down, perpendicular to the earth. And you spread your arms wide out. And you turn to look over that middle finger. Inhale here. And exhale, settle into your pose. One more breath. Release the arms down and just turn the feet. So we get our warrior two pose on both sides. That back heel wants to be back a little further. The front leg perpendicular to the earth. And warrior two on the other side. Feel your torso straight up and down. Breathe into it. It's like you're pulling back the string of a bow. Standing up for others. Release the arms down. And then we'll do warrior arch from this side. So we keep our legs in the same position they were in. The hips are open to the side. We bring the back hand by the back leg onto the back thigh, and then we watch the front arm come up on the inhale, looking up. Warrior arch, standing up for peace. It's a beautiful pose. And you want it to feel good on the inside. So we'll just switch over. Whoops. We'll do warrior arch on this side. So your hips are aligned with the long side of the mat. You're down in your lunge. Your front leg is perpendicular. Your back heel is back. Your back hand comes, or the hand that's aligned with the back leg comes to the back of your thigh, and you watch your arm, watch your hand come up. It's a balancing pose as well. You want to breathe into it. Let it feel really, really nice on the inside. Standing up for peace. Uncurl out of it. Bring both feet toward the front. Did we do our star pose? I think we did. It's a good place to do another star pose. And maybe just a wide angle forward bend. While I turn the page. And let's see. I think we're gonna just end it there. She does a bow pose. And she does a flower pose. And those are perfectly self-explanatory. But for the bow pose, you come down onto your belly. And just bring your hands a little forward of your shoulders and just straighten your arms. Coming into an arch. And lower back down. One more time. This could be a Sphinx pose, like the Sphinx in Egypt, where your hands and your forearms are pressing into the mat, the tops of your feet and your pelvic bone are pressing into the mat, and then we lift the chest, lift the chin. But then you can press into your hands and lift your elbows too. From here, we're going to just come into our child pose. You can have your knees together. You can stack your fists, or you can just bring your forehead to the floor, or the top of the head to your forehead. Let your shoulders just drape over your knees. You can also do this with your knees further apart and rest. This is where you don't have to do anything. You just let go. And then, of course, Shavasana, which I'm going to stand up and just show you the pose. But you would be laying on your back. Your feet would be wider than normal. Your toes flopping out to the side. Your hands, the backs of your hands on the floor. Your chin just tucked a little bit. Your eyes closing, and feeling the breath in the body. Just taking a few minutes of quiet. And this is a time, it's very important in yoga to let the body receive what you've just given it. So we breathe we release, we relax, and we take it all in. Shavasana. You can stay in your Shavasana. I really have enjoyed doing yoga with you today. I think I better end this now. It's gotten longer than I hoped. It's been great doing yoga with you. Bye.